Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another journey of Sarah's View of Life right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Well, I don't know if you've listened to any of my shows before, but I have asthma. And one of the things I want to talk about today was croup versus asthma, respiratory diseases. This last weekend, I had to witness my poor little grandson, who's nearly two this last week, Easter, and watch him go through the struggle of breathing because he had croup. And, it's a viral infection that affects young children, mostly under 5, causing swelling in the upper airways, particularly around the voice box, the larynx, and the windpipe, the trachea. His coughing sounded like a seal, kind of a barking cough, hoarseness, stridor, high-pitched wheeze when inhaling, often worse at night or early in the morning, but definitely in the evening he got worse. And it usually comes after a mild cold or fever, which he didn't seem to have. It's contagious and usually caused by viruses like pranavinfluenza. I'm probably saying that wrong. And they say that the treatment is humidifier, airstream can help cool night air, sometimes ease the symptoms. In more serious cases, a doctor is prescribed on steroids to reduce swelling. Well, we ended up in hospital with my little one, his mum and I, and, to watch this poor little thing trying to breathe. And they put the oxygen up his nose, and of course he kept wanting to rip it off, so we'd have to hold his hands. When his oxygen level went too low, they'll put a mask on and have to hold it there. They had a monitor to watch his heart and all his other vitals. And he was laying down and he wanted to sleep. He was a belly sleeper. So, obviously with all this equipment on, he couldn't sleep. The thing that kind of got me was, yes, they saved him. They needed that. But it was kind of, he was so much in distress that it was making his heart rate go higher. And he was so much in distress that that made him hyperventilate more. And it brought me back, because I'm an asthmatic, to when my mum, because I got it at the age of 2, a little bit older than my little Louis. And back in those days, we didn't have Ventolin. We didn't have any steroid pumps whatsoever. The oxygen mask, I clearly remember a big, horrible black thing put on my face, too big for me, because I don't think they even had a children's one back then. And I can't remember the medication. I know there was a pill that I would occasionally took, and it took a while to work. So I know I ended up in hospital a few times, and I presume the only thing they could do was, oxygen and maybe cool steam. I'm not, obviously, it was 2, I can't remember it. But my daughter and I are just kind of going from like trying to hold him and calm him down, and then really having to surrender him to the nurses. They tried to get an IV in there. And of course, he had no fluids. And so they couldn't get a vein. And it took ages for them to get a vein. And he was semi-asleep, but they're, holding this mask heavily on his face. And it was hard to see. Both are very calm, all through my children's medical things. I have always been very, very calm. It's later I kind of get a little shaky, and she was being very calm, and she is pregnant. So of course that's even harder to do so. And then looking at this little one, tiny little thing in the bed with all these adults around him, and you just wanted to go over there and pick him up and tell him it was all right. But he was struggling to breathe. What did my mum go through without any of these modernization things that we have today? As I said, obviously I was too young to remember, though I do remember the mask. And Obviously, I don't remember how many times I was in and out of hospital or, what they did. I know that every time I got a cold or a cough, I was in bed. That's it, not allowed to do anything. And the Ventolin asthma pump only came when I was 14. And that changed life considerably because when I got into an attack, I could immediately combat it with the Ventolin. But nowadays, obviously there's prevention steroid things. There's so much they can do. Back then, they didn't. And what did my mum go through watching them trying to get oxygen into me? And they didn't have all these monitor things, heart rates or oxygen rates or anything. And how many children died because they didn't get their breath? And I know that my father had somebody that worked for him. He owned his own sawmill, timber mill, and he had a gentleman that worked for him, and his wife Ivy was a houseworker at our home, and their daughter had asthma. And I know that she did die from asthma because if you can't get the air in your lungs, it denies it. And I've had blackout asthma attacks. In fact, actually, a few years ago, I was interviewing America's supermom, Lachelle Atkins, who's a mother of 15 children. And in the middle of a show, I had an asthma attack, and I had never seen myself actually have one. And here I am on video, and I'm seeing my face contort and gasping for breath. Everything about you tightens up. I remember having an asthma attack where I was on the phone with someone and I couldn't say anything to him because I'm gasping for breath. I couldn't even put the phone down because I know my hands were clenched around it and everything like this. And obviously, I cut it out of the show, but it was just horrifying to see what I look like. And I kind of understand why I scare people when that happens. So to kind of watch a little one go through it, whether it's asthma or in this case, croup, it is hard to see. You want so much to do for them, but you have to sometimes surrender to the medical to do what they do. Um, were they a little overcautious? Perhaps, they ended up moving him to a different city where they felt they could take care of him in pediatrics better. And we wait for him to come home. And he's got a birthday to celebrate. Fortunately, he's a kid that when he's in distress, he's in distress, and when he's out, he's out. And so hopefully we're going to see that happen in the future, soon that he'll be out of it and on his way. But it does make us look at medicine today and look at medicine of yesterday and understand why the rate of children reaching puberty was low because we didn't have the medicines that we have today. We didn't have the treatments that we have today. And if a child had a respiratory problem, then it was detrimental. And, here we have hay fever season right now. And so that triggers your hay fever. And at the same time, it also, I've been using my Ventolin a lot more because of it. So when people have hay fever, do they stay indoors? Do they stay away from it? Modern medicine today is incredible of what it can do. Sometimes I wonder, is it overkill, and maybe over drugs where there could be another solution, but it has its place as it is time. And I think it's making sure that it is not a prolonged thing, that it's something they address in the immediate. But it does make you look at all the parents that had children going through this when they were young and what could they do for them. And pneumonia, it still can kill if not caught in time and not got on the antibiotics and not get the oxygen. But it used to be a very, very severe killer. Nowadays, we can do something about it. But back in the day, many people died of pneumonia, and you could go to pneumonia very, very quickly. We didn't have antibiotics till around 100 years ago. And they weren't as widely used. And then, of course, they got a little overused. They got used for everything instead of really addressing what the problem is. And so we have a lot to be grateful for medicine and the advancement of it because it certainly is saving lives. But then we need to look at how do we maintain. If we are vulnerable, in my case, if we're vulnerable to lung infections or asthma. Then what do we need to do to boost our lung power? Cordyceps are brilliant for that, the mushroom cordyceps. And if you can find a company that sells them, I know there's one company, unfortunately, that's been hit by the tariffs and may not be able to stay in business because of it. And they had a wonderful product using the cordyceps. You can still get them elsewhere. With what's going on with the tariff war right now, we just don't know how many things are going to be hit. But cordyceps are a wonderful mushroom that really does open up the airways and keeps the oxygen going. It's very important if you are volatile to stay away from perfumes or places that have high scents, stay away from chemicals. Change your cleaning materials more to vinegar based and less toxic based. There's a lot of things that we need to do in order to change our lifestyle in order to combat this. So we look at our young and it's hard to watch them go through that. But thank God there is the treatment today that there is. I had this wonderful show with uh, a doctor last week where we were talking about various drugs for various things, and we hit on the fibromyalgia, which of course I have, and that it is a misfiring of the neurons. It's like your brain is not in sync. And we see this so common today, yet it's still kind of one of those elusive type diseases that people don't quite understand. It has such a massive range of defects that go on in the body because of fibro. And people say, well, how can you have so much, going on? And again, that is the misfiring. It doesn't just hit one aspect of your body, it affects all of your body and sends a whole load of things into triggers. And so it's knowing which medication will actually suit you and having a doctor that is prepared to listen to you, to experiment with what is good. Is it working? Isn't it working? Should we try something else? Should we incorporate something else? And understand what the patient needs. And how do we get our brain back into sync and firing optimally on those neurons so that it's speaking to the rest of the body and calming it down? Because a lot to do with fibro is the misfiring of that information going out throughout the body. And you kind of half the time you feel everything is screaming and you're very like cardboard and you're very fatigued because the whole body is just like buzzing. And so how do you calm that down so the body can calm down and find its own balance? There are always answers. And I think the thing is that we look to Western medicine and its place at its time, but we look at maintenance medicine on how do we maintain a healthy lifestyle. If we use the drugs to rebalance ourselves, great. That's fabulous. Now, do we stay on them if they're working for us and keeping things in equilibrium? Yes, why not? But what else can you do in your life that you can maintain good health? And I think that is being aware. Now, little one got it from daycare. So unfortunately, it went around daycare to the younger ones, and 2 or 3 kids ended up with it. And, it's hard. Hopefully, he'll be home soon and everything could be good. They bounce back, children, so incredibly quickly if they get the right treatment at the right time. But what we've got to make sure is that it doesn't go to asthma and that there isn't this long-term thing. I have this show called Your Health is Your Choice. And the reason I called it that is that when we have done our own investigation, seen the doctors, whatever we need to do to diagnose what it is that we have, then it's like, what options do we have before us? It's not carte blanche, oh, this drug, that's it. It's this drug, maybe another one is better. That's where the communication with your doctor is important, where they know your history and where they speak to you on, is it working for you? Is it not? Like they treat you like a patient and give you the time that you need. And we need to demand that from our doctors, if you can find one. At the same time is what can we do with our own health, nutritionally, diet, exercise, mind calmness, all of that holistic stuff that we need to do in our lives to maintain our health, to maintain our equilibrium, to optimize our body so that whatever it's fighting, it can fight it because we fueled the solution. So there isn't the one or the other. It's, I can't live without my Ventolin. I've been on it now for 56 years. Um, and if I have an asthma attack, there's nothing else that's going to help me. This will. And I can do other things, like I do take cordyceps, and I do take various other things that are for the lungs. And it's also, making sure that I'm not around those things that are going to aggravate it. Cats can to a certain point, obviously cleaning chemicals, um, perfume. People who have high perfume. Just, if you're going to be around people that are sensitive, please do not wear the perfume. And watch the chemicals that you're using because they're toxic and then get into the lungs and they can aggravate. That goes for yourself and that goes for anybody, that's compromised around you. There's always alternatives, millions of them today. Good old vinegar is one of them. So there's a lot of options that we do have, but we do have to take that accountability where we look to what we can do about it. We look to how we can help ourselves. And I think if we just either just go to the drug or only do the holistic, then we're going to have an issue. I don't want to see my little boy get croup again. He's already had RSV when he was 8 months old. The poor little guy's already been through it. Give him a break, okay? Um, but these viruses that are out there today are vicious. We have them so much more today than we did, and perhaps the coronavirus has weakened us. I've had the virus a couple of times, and it's weakened us, or maybe what we're putting out in the atmosphere is weakening us. And so we do have to look at everything from every side. I have a lot more respect for my mother and what she went through. I do remember my head being put over a hot bowl of water with Vicks in it with the towel over my head so I could breathe in, the Vicks and the hot steam in order to open up the airways. I remember that. And because I did that, quite into my teens until we found the Ventolin. There are some old, good, tried and true ways, but we also need to understand there are some modern ways, and it's how do we meld? How do we prevent? And if it happens, what drugs do we take at the time? And what can we do alternatively, as much as possible so we don't need the drugs, or if we still do need the drugs, that we don't become wholly dependent on that because we're taking care of the other issue. So there's always a lot to look at. With the respiratory illnesses that are out there today, there are so many, so many. And we have to look at how we are going to combat it. A good old mask on your face if you've got a cold or you're around people with colds and coughs. It does filter out a little bit. If you're sick, please stay at home and get yourself well. Don't give it to anyone else, but in your weakened state, you could pick something else up and make it worse. If you get sick, you need to rest. Look after yourself. Do what it is you need to do to get better and over that hump. And it isn't about, well, my boss is going to fire me if I don't go in there. Well, I'm splashing and spewing everywhere. Now everybody's sick. I think one of the things that coronavirus did is to say to people, wash hands, stay at home if you're sick, because we don't want to pass this on to everyone, including our little ones. So one day he's okay, laughing and dancing to music, and the next day he's sick. And that's the way it goes with most things in life. So, there is a difference between the group. It is a virus, and with asthma, it is a chronic long-term condition that causes inflammation and narrowing of the airways and the lungs. Wheezing when inhaling, shortness of breath, tight chest, coughing, often worse at night or early morning, inhalers like Ventolin or corticosteroids, long-term management plans, and avoiding triggers. So it is important that we know what it is we have or what it is, or are we just prone to colds? Are we prone to, to viruses? How do we build our immune system? Echinacea is wonderful. You never take echinacea if you've got bacteria in your body because it prolongs the bacteria. But taking echinacea when you've come through something and building your immune system up, 3 weeks on, a week off, 3 weeks on, do that for 3 months to build your immune system up. The vitamin C and the various other things that you can take that can help along the way. It's the answers are out there, and we've just got to be willing to listen to them. I've done many, many shows on lungs and our health. As I said, you go to Your Health is Your Choice here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com, where it says the podcast tags. Go down there and you will see it. All those banners are different genres. Mental and physical are the same, although I separate them because sometimes we talk about mental issues, which will affect the body. And of course, if we're in a state of crisis in our body, it will affect us mentally. But I did separate them as shows because sometimes it is a totally different subject, even though they do affect one or the other. The onus of our own health is on us. But don't beat yourself up if you can't manage it. That's where you need help. And don't beat yourself up if you're not beating it. Like as a case with the fibromyalgia, I have tried so many things for the 28 years of having it. And I'm yet to try another one that I want to try and see if that's going to work. From this doctor that I interviewed this week. And I'll give you his name so that you actually have it. So give me a second. And he has found the drugs that do work. So let's have a look at it. Let's see how it works. So I'm just going to give you the full thing here right now. Give me a second, folks. So it's Dr. It's called no, that's the wrong person. It's called the Corona Protocol. And the Corona Protocol is a protocol that came up from Dr. Corona through the years of study and through the years of working with people. And you can, come here and watch the Corona Protocol and hear for yourself why he's taken this route and why it's important. So I don't want to have to see my little grandson or any grandsons going through this again. I know what it's like not to be able to breathe. It's frightening. And when we are in that way, having anything coming over our face actually puts us more in panic because we feel that we're being suffocated. It's really hard. When we have a breathing problem, we want to feel we can open up, nothing restraining us, certainly sitting up, not laying down. And it's hard to put that mask on, but if you need to, it's always approach it calmly, very, very calmly. And because the more upset we're going to get, the worse it's going to get. So very, very important that we also pay attention to the stress level of the patient and what they can cope with. And if you are the patient and you can speak out, then say, look, this aggravates me even more. Help me navigate through this without putting me in more distress. Because when you're in distress, you don't breathe properly. Full stop. So the calmer you are, the better you're going to breathe. I don't want to look at that again, but if I have to, I'm there. I'm always there for my daughter. Shouldn't have to go through it alone. It's hard to watch, but at the same time, it's how do they come out of it? And when they come out of it, it's thank God. It's always thank God. So whether you're having to watch a child go through this or whether you're going through it on your own or a family member's going through it, be grateful that there is medication today that can help them navigate through it faster. Be grateful that there is a medical system where he had 5 people working on him at one point. And they're dedicated to making sure he was breathing, getting oxygen in him, bringing his heart rate down. And then once they're out of that danger, what can you do to comfort and calm and make them feel safe? And the next phase of how to protect them holistically at home. Whether it's a child you're watching, whether it's yourself, whether you know somebody who's having respiratory problems, whatever the problem may be, please understand what they're going through. They are gasping for breath. They are struggling. Their lungs are struggling. I interviewed a wonderful gentleman some years ago who was a crooner, and he didn't even smoke, but he ended up having to have a double lung transplant. And he would take oxygen, go out and do a song, and come back for more oxygen. And when he had the double lung transplant, he's back crooning like he did before. And he didn't smoke. It was secondhand smoke that caused it. So please look at, if you are a smoker, please, I beg you, kick the habit. Yes, it's going to be rough for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you'll be so glad you did, and your lungs will love you. If you're vaping, I beg you to stop. Vaping is so bad for you. And if you damage your lungs, there is no point of return. None. You're on a lung transplant wait list. They cannot repair because it causes holes in the lungs. So please don't vape. Please don't smoke. We can overcome these habits. It's just that determination to do so, to put your own health ahead of everything, and ask for the support around you. And then once you're through that hurdle, you'll feel like new and you'll be so glad that you did. We've only got these lungs, folks. And although transplants are there, they're few and far between. And we need to look after them as we need to look after our heart and as we need to look after so many other things in our lives. So let's take onus and control, take what we need to take, do what we need to do, and support ourselves, support our inner selves, because we want to be around for a long time. We want to be here doing what we're here to do. I don't want to impose an asthma on anybody anymore, and I don't really want to see anybody in respiratory illness anymore. But thank goodness for Western medicine. But now let's be holistic and prevent it from happening. And when it does happen, it happens. The biggest thing is, if it's happening to someone else or even to you, is remain calm. Please remain calm. Tightening up, getting exasperated or angry or upset about it only makes things worse. It blocks the airways. It tightens everything up that no oxygen is going through your body. I know you're struggling for breath. I know what it's like, but try and be as calm as you can be, please. So here's to the health of my little one, and to anyone else out there that's struggling with lung problems. It is a trouble. And there are some people with no point of return. But let's try and prevent that. Let's do what we need to do for ourselves so we can prevent that and not ever have to face that kind of decision. So until next day, folks, I wish you plenty of oxygen in your lungs and running through your body so that you can go and do all that you are meant to do and be that exuberant, beautiful joy in life. So until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.